Hey, hi, and hello, everyone. Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. I hope you are doing well. I wanted to come on here and do a bit of a response to a rant, a discussion that has been initiated. The pot has been stirred by Bronx rap legend Melle Mel of Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, who can be seen on camera in a recently uploaded YouTube video talking about Kendrick Lamar as well as Eminem a little bit as well in this particular quote, and saying essentially that he's not really all that influential, he's not that significant. The idea of him being the number 2 rapper is preposterous because he's a relatively new rapper, among other reasons as well. We can play a bit of that clip right here, right now. We'll do that.
After Kendrick Lamar does these songs, nobody wants to rap like Kendrick Lamar. Nobody wants to rap like Eminem. A lot of people wanted to rap like Pac and Biggie. You see what I'm saying? That's my take on it.
This is preposterous. And I think Melle Mel, unfortunately, has fallen prey to a very old head way of thinking and a very old head way of perceiving hip hop music here. I guess I don't entirely fault him for seeing the way things currently are in the genre and being a little confused, I guess. Because rewinding back to a time when Biggie and Tupac were the most relevant rappers that you could be listening to or talking about, where they were not only making artistically substantive music, but they were also like the leaders of the pack in terms of the sound and the aesthetics of the genre. Yeah, there were a lot of rappers during that time that wanted to be Biggie and Tupac, that wanted to copy them, that wrote songs and recorded songs that sounded like songs that they released. But I think what Melle Mel is failing to realize and understand here is that hip-hop, in terms of its artistic makeup, the way it's marketed, the way it's recorded and released now, the way people perceive the genre generally, is completely and utterly different than it was in the 1990s. We can pretty handily attribute the fact that there were so many rappers that wanted to sound like Biggie and Pac back in the day, during their heyday, to the fact that as far as major rap stars who were like advancing the sound and advancing the popularity of the genre, who were literally like the spokespeople for the genre, and were also representative of success within the genre. Like if you wanted to be popular and make money and make a career in hip hop, of course, you're going to look to the guys who are doing that the best. And during that time, obviously, that was Biggie and Tupac. Whereas like these days, in terms of mainstream crossover, in terms of representing the genre, not just within hip hop locally, but outside of the genre broadly, we have so many examples to go from that are just beyond Biggie and Tupac. Sure, you have Kendrick, but you also have Jay-Z. You have Kanye, you have Eminem, you have J. Cole, you have Drake, you have Nicki Minaj, you have Lil Wayne, and you have at least a dozen other rappers that I can name as well. The idea of a successful rapper in terms of sound and style and aesthetics is no longer as narrow and is no longer as defined as it was back in the 1990s. While that era of hip hop was, regionally speaking, really diverse, you had a variety of different sounds and styles from across the country. Most of those artists were not at the time hitting the mainstream in the way that Biggie and Pac were. Not only that, but there's a much wider array of ways in which somebody can become popular or successful within hip-hop music generally these days. The internet, for better or worse, has ushered in an era where just about anybody can try their hand at it. And as a result of that, yes, you've had some really cool left field, groundbreaking, experimental successes of guys who, frankly, probably wouldn't have been given a shot within a more traditional music industry makeup. Dudes like Tyler, the Creator, Danny Brown, guys who are pretty heavily influenced by Eminem, by the way, who Melle Mel discounts as like not being influential, despite the fact that, again, also in that clip, he's talking about Kendrick, who is also a very relevant current generation rapper who is influenced by Eminem and has borrowed ideas from Eminem in his songs. So the idea that Eminem doesn't have rappers copying him who are relevant, and also that there isn't like at least 1,000 white rappers out there. I think it's pretty safe to say that the majority of them are influenced by Eminem, or at least by his ability to sort of bring hip hop to a wider audience in the way that he did, a wider audience and a wider audience. But back to the point I was making, the internet has allowed for a variety of lanes of success within rap music. You don't need to try to be the next Kendrick in order to be successful in rap music. And while Melle Mel can certainly observe, and he was right to observe, that after the message, there were a lot of other artists talking consciously, rapping consciously. Okay, again, true. But again, the pool of hip hop artists people were paying attention to at that time was much smaller. And frankly, Kendrick is operating at a much higher level, I'm going to say it, higher level of artistry. And look, not to knock the content of the message. It's a great song. It's a classic song. It's an essential song. But like, geez, in terms of concept and instrumentation and detail and a host of other things that I could spend an hour listing, a lot more goes into a record like To Pimp a Butterfly. And, you know, frankly, that's not just an album you wake up one day and you just will yourself to make. I would love to wake up one day and just have, you know, access to the kind of musicians, production, instrumentation, and, you know, just have the ideas in my head just locked and loaded to make an album as good or better than To Pimp a Butterfly, as I'm sure a lot of people would, but like, it's not in everyone to make an album that ambitious. It's not in everyone to make a record of that quality. Take a look at Ice Spice, for example, who was recently quoted as saying that she spent a lot of time listening to Kendrick, and specifically that record T-Pab, and she is literally one of the most popular and relevant artists right now in terms of you know, street-oriented music, as Melle Mel is referring to in this clip. But like, influence and artistry and enjoyment and relevance within a genre can't always be so simply defined as artist is popular, artist makes a record or has a sound, and now everyone copies that sound. There are more ways to define relevancy within a genre outside of whether or not other people are copying you, especially since a lot of artists and trends that get copied the most usually end up burning out the fastest, and it just proves to be a 15 or 30-minute thing that lasts for a little while, and then everyone gets tired of it and moves on to the next thing. The stuff that has the most staying power is often the kind of thing that is difficult to replicate, hence why there aren't tons of other rappers right now just willing themselves to be the next Kendrick Lamar. And because being successful within music is a game of popularity, it just, for a lot of artists or potential artists out there, creates so little of an incentive to make music that is maybe a bit more thoughtful. Guys like Kendrick Lamar on a mainstream level literally operate as representatives for the art form of hip hop, generally speaking, across the musical spectrum. Like, not only are there rappers who wish they could be Kendrick Lamar, there are people in every single genre out there within music who wish they could be as artistically relevant and substantive as Kendrick Lamar. The dude is literally getting people into hip hop because of the artistry and content of his music. Simultaneously, there are marketing forces within the genre that make it not so easy to be the next successful conscious rapper. If you do opt as a hip hop artist to be the next Kendrick, you're kind of picking the path of most resistance. And because hip hop within the music industry is portrayed almost as a sport of sorts, where success and numbers are the name of the game, more often than not, you're not going to have artists opting to be the next Kendrick. Economically, you're pretty much guaranteeing yourself to be punished in some way. Not only that, but there's a much wider variety of sounds and styles and aesthetics within the genre right now that anybody can opt to embrace. There are so many options right now. Why would you want to be the next Kendrick Lamar, honestly? Like, do your own thing, experiment, do your own sound, whatever. Finally, on top of it, if Melle Mel were actually paying attention, which I don't think he is, I think he would actually hear the artists out there that do copy Kendrick's music, that do copy Eminem's music, do borrow ideas from their classic tracks and records, because they're out there, they exist. YG literally has copied elements of Kendrick's music on his records. Freaking Logic, who is handily one of the most popular rappers out there right now, has borrowed quite a few ideas from Kendrick's music. And I could spend an even longer time listing the number of artists who have borrowed from Eminem over the years, but that would be a waste. I feel like I'm arguing to Melle Mel that the sky is blue. So I think I'll leave it there for right now. Let me know your thoughts on all this in the comments of the video. You're the best. Love you. Over here next to my head, it's another video you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Kendrick Lamar, relevant forever.